Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Two Brothers, Same Mother. Of course, it's Sheik. We got AJ here as well, with the man cave all lit up and the Philly special and all those good memories that we kind of don't have right now. And it seems like every week we still got a lot of stuff to talk about the NFL. Obviously, it's Super Bowl week, but I'm actually liking the fact that there's so much other news beyond the Super Bowl to talk about because honestly, man, the week leading up to the Super Bowl always seems kind of lame. I don't know how you feel about it.
Yeah, it's normally outside of 2017, right?
Right.
It's normally the same old shit. Like,
I mean,
the Brady, whatever 6 or whatever, they always have to review that, and then they always have to blah blah blah, and they make us look like the last 2 years make us look like assholes because Andy Reid's not, because we fired Andy.
Listen, it only took Andy Reid 21 years to win one, So, hey.
Right. And it's not a knock on Andy. Andy's an awesome coach, but
it's cool. It's just like I hate it revisits history. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the big news to come out was that Andy Reid's going to eat a double cheeseburger if he wins. Like, come on, man. This is and I'm not say that like I'm not talking about they made a silly joke. No, it was lead in Sports Center. Andy Reid will eat a double cheese. Like, come on, bro.
Yeah. It's
that's where it's like. Yeah, but then again, this is the year where we had a Madden Pro Bowl. So,
yeah.
Speaking of leading news stories and stuff like that,
bruh.
Nick Sirianni, man. Well, we need to talk about that. I'm not even gonna go any deep into that. Just your thoughts.
So, all right, last week when we recorded, everything was just about like what kind of coach he is, like from other people, right? Just excited. Then I heard this motherfucker talk, right? Oh, I'm just talking. Hold on.
Wait. Let's stop real quick, because I just got to say the joke. And then the bell rang.
And then the bell rang, bro. My man, I don't know if Porky Pig wrote his cue cards or what. So I don't know. So at first I was like, man, this dude, right? And I was just like, I kept thinking about? I was waiting for Joe Pesci to come up in that character from from Goodfellas, and he was just like, get on with it, Spidey, you stuttering prick. You know what I mean? I just kept waiting for that. But then I didn't say enough, so I was left it alone. And then yesterday morning, he did a interview with Angelo Cataldi on WIP. And it was a lot more, he seemed a lot more articulate. Yeah, he was still paraphrasing. And, of course, the next show, John Ritchie, especially John Eeyore Ritchie, yeah, Joe DeCamera, John Ritchie, but it was mainly John Ritchie was just ripping him apart and saying he can't speak, he's not a good speaker. And it was just like, bro, it was night and day, and he's pissed off because he uses cliches. Like, I don't get it, right? So in Philly media, it seems like if somebody comes out, whether it's Carson or if it would have been Doug or anybody, giving them the information they really wanted, like, yeah, we're going to try to get rid of this dude. He sucked last year, blah, 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 blah. Oh, what kind of coach is he? If Sirianni would have came out and been like that. But because Sirianni really isn't giving you anything other than, yo, I'm going to try to get these guys to compete, blah, 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 XYZ, ownership, XYZ. Also, he's giving cliches. Every coach says that, and then they're burying him for that. It's just like, it's a miracle that we get any decent kind of coaches here, any decent kind of players here, because if I was a player, honestly, I would not want to play in the Philadelphia market just because of how the media is.
To be fair, we do live in an era where everybody has a voice. Everybody has, the little phone thing where you can Twitter and all that. Everybody thinks they're a reporter. So in every market, Philly, it's just a little bit more heightened. I think the northeast part of the country just does sports a little different. But every city, I mean, listen, man, the year before Andy won the Super Bowl, you had their afternoon guys talking about, well, maybe you should stop letting your kids die and stop coaching and give us back our team. And then they won
Yeah,
the Super
yeah,
Bowl. So I
yeah,
mean, like
yeah.
every city got their thing, you know.
It's
It
like
just sucks.
Jesus. Yeah, it's just very disheartening. I think outside of New York, we're the only city that I know of that I'm in the radius of listening to that actually has two full-time sports stations. So
Yeah, yeah, and Philly actually has 3. So
yes, yeah, because there's
you
that
know,
new one. Yeah, 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 yeah. I forgot
not
about
not
that.
to mention that there's a South Jersey one that's just dedicated to South Jersey too. You're in Atlantic City. I mean, Philly love their sports, man. They do.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. It's just like Jesus. Like, I mean, I get it. Listen. He didn't come off like let's win one for the Gipper. He didn't come off like that. I get all that. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, the first news conference, yeah, that was bad, but he was nervous. I personally think that Howie and Jeffrey kind of like was just like, yo, try to do your best. Like they didn't give him no information about Carson, so they were probably just do your best to deviate from that. I'm pretty
mhm.
sure Frank was just like, yo, like, yo, the Philly media, they're sharks. Like, you know what I mean? Like they're real intense. So he was already nervous. He was excited at the same time. And sometimes I'm not going to lie, like when I get to talking about things that I'm really excited about and passionate about, I get to stuttering myself. And I could imagine, first of all, real quick, I don't know why they did the Zoom meeting like that at the podium. Like they could have did that from his office. Like you know what I'm
Right,
saying? He could have
right,
sat there. I
agreed.
don't know. That was kind of weird. So I'm pretty sure that was awkward too with him and a PR dude and a cameraman in this big ass auditorium. So I'm pretty
Well,
sure that was
I
kind of
will
weird.
say this too, as someone who has done a lot of public speaking, and anyone actually, you don't have to do a lot. You could probably relate. Um, well, I don't know if you've had to do any Zoom meetings, beyond
No,
what we do. So
no.
maybe you can't relate. It's way different speaking to people when they're in a room than as opposed to on Zoom, especially considering the way Zoom is set up for them. I can see you. He doesn't get to see all the reporters like that.
Right.
So he's at a podium, he's talking, he's staring at a computer, but he doesn't see anybody's reactions. The PR person, that's why the PR person goes, oh, we're going to have Howard, you go, and then John Clark, you go, because
Right.
Sirianni can't see it. So to put that in perspective, it's almost the same as if you're a comedian and you don't know if anyone's laughing at your jokes or not. You can't read the room.
Yeah.
So
But it was
that
obvious
makes it
he
very
was
difficult.
nervous. And like I said, he was probably hit to the thing. I chose to look between the stuff you and I text about it. I
Yeah.
chose to look between the stuff like, yeah, he wouldn't commit to who's the starter, competition, yada yada. But like I said, it was a simple fact that my man wasn't even trying to commit that Carson was even going to be on the team. Like it wasn't even like a hey, well, I hope he's on the team. Like when Howard Eskin did the follow up of, well, is Carson Wentz? Do you plan for Carson Wentz
To
to
be on the
be on
team,
the 20
right.
on the roster? And he was just like, yeah, I can't answer that.
And that's more on Howie and on Jeffrey. That's not on him. You know what I mean? Uh,
Right, right.
because
Like I think you said, Jeffrey should have came out and been like, "Listen, I know you're going to have a ton of questions about Carson Wentz. Here's the thing with Carson Wentz: we're working out something with him. We're hopefully he's going to be on the team this year. But really, be honest with you, that's all we have on Carson Wentz, and that would have deviated all that other stuff."
look, I will say this because we sometimes forget that these are jobs too, and these are human beings. So it's
Hmm.
hard to think of the NFL and then think of a typical job. Okay, but picture this: you get your first major opportunity. Okay, and you're a young guy, so you're not even that seasoned, and your boss has you face a hostile room by yourself as opposed to being sitting next to you, which Mr. Lurie could have did or Howie could have did any other time you would have been sitting next to him. And with COVID, I get it, but one or two people ain't gonna make that big of a difference. I thought it was very unfair that at least Jeffrey Lurie should have been sitting next to Nick or, standing next to him or something to kind of just at least have some sort of support there because the guy definitely, I don't know, I'm sure you've had this experience, very young as a manager or young in your career or what have you. You're going to have a bad meeting, a bad speech, a bad impression. It happens. It's just that in
Yeah.
sports, when you're left out there, you end up being on the not ESPN top 10.
Right, right. And let's be real. I think Jeffrey Lurie didn't do the guy any services by rambling on for 25 minutes
Oh
beforehand. Like
yeah,
people are probably like, "Oh my God, dude, we've been waiting 9 days to talk to this guy, and you just won't shut the fuck up." So
and then he took his lead from Jeffrey Lurie. That's the way he's supposed to do it. And then he's acting like he won an Academy Award.
bro,
I would like to thank the rain that came for the water that is in this bottle. Like it's just like
bro, I
Jesus.
was waiting for him to hit us with the Sally Fields. They like me. They really like me.
But listen, going deeper into what really matters though, beyond that, he's
Right.
hired most of his staff. And we're going to
Everything
get to
but a
the
running
ones.
back coach.
I'm about to say that we're going to get to one spot,
Sorry.
which there's a reason why it's open, which is the running back.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But what do you think, especially about your offensive and defensive coordinators?
Bro, listen, I had no idea that the defensive back, even though as young as he is, young as all of them are, other than Stoutland, right? Was like McLeod, like I didn't read the whole article, but apparently like McLeod, the reason why he wears that number is because of that dude. And, like, so I'm really excited about like
Which
these
dude
young coaches. The secondary coach, the defensive back coach.
Who's the defensive
So
back?
I forget the guy's name, so don't get me the line. But they hired him. But McLeod is something like he has a link to McLeod. The reason why McLeod wears his number and all this other stuff. So
Gotta love the Philadelphia Eagles. They've updated the head coach, but they still have defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz.
But the other guys, listen, everybody seems to be coming out.
Marquand Manuel.
Yes. No. Marquand Manuel ain't the defensive back coach. He just left to go to someplace else. That was last year's Marquand Manuel.
Google, you're failing me. Okay, I'm sorry. This is bananas. Okay, let's see what year this is. Okay, this is 2021. So he was on the Jets. So the Jets actually hired Rockwell Manuel. He was with us last year.
Yes.
And we just hired Denard Wilson from the Jets. That's the
yes.
Okay.
So so it's like, I mean, honestly, like if you look at this coaching staff together, dude, they honestly look like a group of dudes that we would have seen at Fan Fest hanging out by the Delilah's tent.
So I saw a funny thing. I can't take credit for this. I believe, I don't know, it might have been one of the radio shows. They said they had a list. It was like the coaching list. All right, offensive drills, defensive drills, stock up beer for the frat house. Because it was like, that's the next thing to do.
I'm like,
who was it? I think it was
Stoutland's the house dad or whatever they're called.
Yeah, they said Stoutland's the only one that could drive after 8 p.m.
It's definitely crazy.
I mean, the offensive coordinator and the defensive coordinator, Jonathan Gannon. I mean, we talked a little about that before, but I'm really excited to see what they do, man. I'm really and just when you hire all these young coaches like this and they let them do that, you're saying that you're going to give this guy a couple of years. It seems like. Now.
Yeah, and for them all to be, like you said, all to be young and to be together for a while, hopefully. And one thing about young coaches, they're really fiery. They're really, you know what I mean? So hopefully they'll go.
A lot of people talk about how you need experience and all this other stuff, which is true. Don't get me wrong. But I think the days of needing a coach that is like, the wise old owl, game is past them. So having some coaches that are only slightly older than the players, or some cases the same age, they might even be able to relate to them better.
But it's not like these guys, listen, it's not like these guys have only been coaching for like 2 years, right?
Right.
Like all these guys have like 10 plus years in the league. It's just some of them, hey, they got hurt in college. Boom. Okay. Prime example, like the quarterback's coach. He got hurt. He was on the cover of one of the NCAAs and he got hurt. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then decided to become, I forget
I don't
the
think he's on
exact
the cover of the NCAAs.
Yeah, he was. He was. There was like one year. I texted to you and Mikey from Mayfair. It was like there was like a bunch of different covers, and he was on one of the covers because he was a quarterback for Houston.
Brian Johnson was on the cover of. That don't sound right. I mean, I'll take your word for it because they do
No,
come
there
with
was
a
a
bunch of
group. There
covers.
was a group of them. I texted to you. Check your phone. Um, it was a group of different ones. I didn't know about it until I read it, and that's the only reason I texted you. So it's not like I knew when it happened. But so they became graduate assistants.
Oh, I'm seeing
Yeah,
the cover now. He was Utah's quarterback.
yeah, Utah, not Houston, Utah. Yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah.
why when you said Houston, I'm like, the only quarterback I knew from Houston that was ever on the cover of anything was Andre Ware.
Right, 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 right.
Okay, because
That's what
this
I
was
meant.
the
Utah.
year that had Mark. This is the reason why. Mark Sanchez, I knew. Brian Arakpo, I knew. Michael Crabtree, I knew. And then there was just some guy from Utah.
Yeah. Hmm.
But
Yeah.
okay. I was like, what? Now let me turn my phone off before everybody starts hitting me up. Oh, are you recording? Oh.
But yeah, so like, but then he became a graduate assistant. So like at like 20, 21 years old, you know what I mean? And then he worked his way up now, you know what I'm saying? So like a lot of these guys have like a good amount of years coaching, you know what I'm saying? So it's not like they're 2, 3 years in and oh shit, now they're a defensive coordinator.
Right, right. Well, I did want to mention because one thing's missing is running backs coach. That's the one
Hmm.
thing that's been pretty consistent because Deuce was doing that. Deuce is going to Detroit where they actually have a Philly guy, DeAndre Swift, as the running back. It's probably their best chance of having a decent running back since Barry left. And he's going to be the assistant head coach there too, for Dan Campbell, a guy who seems like he's going to need a good assistant head coach. Um, with all that being said, I swore I turned off my phone. Jesus Christ. Um, you got to put in a pin to turn off your phone? Fuck.
Not me. I just hit off.
Right, right. No, this is like, do you want your power off? Are you sure you want your power off? We don't think
Right.
you
Are
do.
you absolutely positively sure?
By the way, random sidebar.
Please put on
I
display.
just found out with the Samsung S9, you cannot delete Facebook off your Samsung S9.
Oh, you can
No,
uninstall it. You can't delete it.
you can't uninstall it either.
I've uninstalled it on the Samsung S9. You go through Google Play Store.
You might have thought you uninstalled it. You just took it off your screen. Even if you hit uninstall, it's still embedded into your phone. Apparently,
Oh,
Facebook.
okay.
Yeah, it because I noticed that because I had uninstalled it, I deleted it, did all that stuff, and I'm still getting like Facebook updates, and I'm like, what the hell is that? And then when I looked it up, Facebook actually had a hand in paying for the phone creation. So
Okay.
Facebook owns the world.
Right,
Just
right, right,
ever
right.
since Jeff Bezos sat down from Amazon as the CEO earlier today. Now it's up to Facebook.
Right.
That's my random spiel of 90 seconds you'll never get back, America. You're welcome. But do you think Deuce Staley will be a head coach in this NFL in the next 3 years?
Mm.
And here's my thought process. The Eagles would probably have to go to the NFC Championship game or win a Super Bowl or be in a Super Bowl for Deuce to get serious consideration. If Detroit somehow, some ways in the next couple of years ends up being a division champion over Green Bay and Minnesota and Chicago, especially with Jared Goff as the quarterback, it means the running game is going to have to be essential there. He's got to shoot up to the top of the list, right?
I mean, it all depends. If the running backs are middle or middle of the road running backs, I think Deuce should be a head coach. But with that being said, but as far as like the middle of the road, I mean, I don't know why. I think they would have to be like a top 5 Russian team in order.
Which
Um,
I think they could be. I mean, DeAndre Swift.
not if Dan Cable biting everybody kneecaps.
Well, I'll tell you. No, he's biting the other team's kneecaps. It's going to let Swift run around. DeAndre Swift is a kind of a bigger. His style, not his talent, his style would be as a bigger Brian Westbrook. As far as
Right.
how he could catch out in the backfield, he could be a dual threat,
Yeah.
but he could carry for 1,000 yards, 1,200 yards. And Brian Westbrook was pretty sturdy in his own right, but he's built to take a little bit more of the punishment. So we'll see. He was sharing carries with Adrian Peterson this year. We'll see how it goes. I'm actually excited to see that run game with Deuce there. It's just a shame that we won't be seeing it here.
Yeah.
Now, why did I mention that if Detroit is going to win the division, the run game will have to be very prevalent is because there was a trade, big-time trade. Matt Stafford's to the Rams, and Detroit got Jared Goff, and I think they have the Rams' first-round pick till 2087.
Yeah, they got Jared Goff, 2021 third-round pick, 2022 and 2023 first-round picks.
Now, what's interesting is Jared Goff was the last first-round pick the Rams have made, which is it's bananas. I think they haven't had a first-round pick since they've been in LA. Like, so I don't think they were in LA in 2016. I think they moved there in 2017.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
that's crazy.
Either it was one of the two, 2016 or 2017, yes.
Yeah, because I think Jared Goff was with Fisher that first year. And I don't think they took Fisher with them to LA. But it's just bananas how –
all I know is he was with Fisher, and everybody was saying he was a bust.
Right. At 17, they made the playoffs. So,
Yeah.
But
So
it's bananas to me that, Snead, who's their GM, just goes against everything. He goes after stuff like he's playing Madden. Forget draft picks. We'll get this. We'll sign Brandon Cooks to this big deal, and then after a year it doesn't work. All right, who wants to trade for him? Let's see. Who will accept this? And he just doesn't care, man. He just goes for it.
I'll say it, and it does as well. Other than 1 year, it worked, but I ain't gonna lie, man. I personally feel, and this isn't a knock on Stafford at all, but I just personally feel that was highway robbery, to be honest with you.
Me too. I mean, listen, and it's not, once again, just like you said, but Stafford's like 32 years old.
Yeah, like you
with
gave him
injuries every year.
Like 3 years.
And I just honestly don't think Jared Goff's that good.
I think he was a system quarterback, and he was just okay in the system.
Jared Goff, you know what Jared Goff remind me of, man? Like, you ever see one of those dudes? It's hard because I don't want to say like Ryan Leaf, but those dudes, big arm, little bit of intelligence, but just can't really figure out a defense if it gets anything beyond basic.
Yeah.
I was going to say Kyle Orton, but I feel like he has a better arm than Orton, and Orton was a little smarter in what he could do. But
yeah.
It's just like that guy being the number 1 overall pick is crazy to me. Then
That's
again, I mean, if you look at the 2016 quarterbacks, Goff, Wentz, Paxton Lynch, who was else? There was this other guy that the Browns. There's about 8 or 9 quarterbacks drafted before Dak Prescott, and Dak Prescott, as of right now, looks like he's probably going to be the best one out of the bunch.
There was that many drafted before Dak? I thought Dak was a second rounder.
Dak was a 4th rounder.
Oh yeah, you're right. Dak was a 4th rounder.
Goff, Wentz, Paxton Lynch, Christian Hackenberg, Jacoby Brissett, Cody Kessler, and Connor Cook all went before Dak Prescott. And right after Dak Prescott went Cardell Jones, Kevin Hogan, and then everyone's favorite whipping boy, the amazing, the incredible Nate Sudfeld.
Yeah, best long ball in Eagles history, based off Jeffery Lurie.
He looked really good 8 years ago. But it's just bananas when you look at that. Even if Carson regains his form, you like 13 quarterbacks drafted and only 2 are really going to have a positive impact is pretty. I mean, Goff did for a couple of years. He did go to a Super Bowl, but it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I really have to see what Wentz does in this next season. And I got to see what Dak does because I mean, listen, I know Dak put out these gaudy numbers, but everybody forgets, and most Cowboy fans, well, the ones I talk to, um, a majority of them, um, when I bring up Dak, like if when I go, yo, pre-Amari Cooper, even Cowboys fans was calling him a bust.
Well,
Like, let's be
here's
real, Dak was average at best and leaned on a very, very run-heavy offense his first couple years, but yet really till
I,
we got Amari Cooper, he wasn't shit.
I will say this though, because this is why I actually brought this up. Jared Goff's contract is why the Rams had to give them so much capital.
Yeah, because they took on that contract.
Right now, I think the Rams are still going to take on like 40 mil or something like that. Does that mean if the Eagles want to trade Carson Wentz that they have to throw in a first if they're going to get something? I mean, I understand they're getting Stafford back, but does that mean that we have to throw in some high capital for someone just to take Wentz? Maybe not a first, maybe a second, almost like what was the tall quarterback's name from Denver? That was Peyton Manning's backup when he got traded to the
Brock
Browns.
Osweiler.
Yeah, I mean, is Wentz falling down that much in NFL eyes that we have to? If Wentz was traded, he wouldn't be the main reason why we'd have to give them draft picks.
No, I mean it's because, like I said, it was because it was Stafford and it taken what's called. I don't see the Eagles giving up unless they're trading onto the Texans for Deshaun Watson, and then they would give up their first. Um, but you know what I mean? I just don't. I don't. I don't.
I think
I don't.
if a trade was going to happen, I think it would be Wentz and Ertz to the Colts, and we would get something in substantial in return.
Yeah, I definitely think we would. I don't think we would get what we think. Like we're not getting no first round pick.
No,
Sorry, Philly, we're not.
I
Um,
would think it might be like a second and a fourth, and we give them a fifth or something like that.
I'm really yeah, yeah. I'm just really concerned of the Eagles picking up that tight end, man. It's picking up steam.
In the draft from Florida,
Yeah.
I can't see that, man. I just can't.
Well,
I'm
they
sorry.
said dude loves to run the 12 personnel. So
We'll
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 see.
see. We'll see. I have plenty of time to overreact about the draft, man. Oh,
Yeah.
how could I forget? I'm looking for one other thing I wanted to mention, and it goes to show where my mind is as an Eagles fan. Super Bowl week. Totally forgot about the damn Super Bowl. Ain't that some stuff? Um, there are a couple players that were in protocol. Tampa Bay is a little bit different with their um, COVID rules and what have you. So let me ask you, if you're the commissioner, all right, it probably cost you, I mean, millions upon millions of dollars. But if it turned out that a major, let's say Tyreek Hill, because of contract tracing, would have to be sit out the game. Are you still playing the game, or are you trying to move the game?
No, he's still playing the game because
Okay.
you've already bought the spots for this. You've already paid the money for the sponsors.
What if it's Tom Brady?
You got you. It doesn't matter. You've all the NFL has already bought those blocks for the sponsors. The sponsors are already going to run their ads. There's millions of dollars already invested into the Super Bowl. Doesn't matter. They can't move it at that point.
I mean, I always think that when there's a will, there's a way. But you are correct. There would be a ton of money lost.
Yeah, I don't see.
Now, the reason why I bring that up beyond just the reports, if anyone who's a baseball fan remembers, Game 6 of the World Series, come to find out, one of the star players for the Dodgers
Oh yeah, that
tested positive for COVID during the game. And it just so happened that much like the Phillies-Rays World Series when, they were kind of praying for something to happen, the Rays, for some reason, pulled a starter that was doing great for who knows what. And then the relief pitcher gave up the lead. Once he gave up the lead, then they told him the guy had to come out or whatever. But if they wouldn't have done that, it would have went a seventh game, and they would have been missing like a all-star player. It could have been disastrous. And I think the NFL is holding their breath on that because they don't want to see, if it's the third-string linebacker, no big deal. But if it ends up being half of their defensive backfield, it's going to suck.
Yes, hey, COVID, it's the world we live in.
Who do you have? Who do you have Sunday?
Kansas City.
Yeah, I think Andy gonna win another one, which I'm cool with, honestly. Like I'm not. It's just what's crazy. Someone asked you a betting thing. Okay, right now, betting wise, it's the Chiefs are the favorites by 3 points.
Okay.
Even though I think the Chiefs are going to win, I don't know if I could ever literally bet against Brady, especially if you're giving him points.
Yeah, nah, I wouldn't bet it versus Brady. But I do think it's kind of funny that Andy gets to avenge uh, two of his biggest losses as an Eagles coach uh, in one game. He gets to beat Brady for the Super Bowl '04 loss, and he gets to beat Tampa Bay for the '02 NFC Championship game.
Well, I did
It's kind of
hear
funny.
there's some sad story about one of the Tampa Bay players now that's coming out, which is the same thing that happened against Andy and the Eagles before. So, if that happens and it's, oh, well, Tampa Bay's at home. We got to win one for little Johnny. Andy might be in trouble.
Yeah, we'll see.
I could tell that you just cannot wait for this game to happen.
Yeah, I really, honestly, there's so much going on with the Eagles and everything that I'm so not invested into the Super Bowl.
Me too. I have to agree. Like, there's
Like,
so
I'm not
much
just
going on in Philadelphia sports, but with the Eagles too. I mean, think about it. This is what our fourth coach that we've had since Richie Coach, or what our sixth coach probably in our lifetime, sixth or seventh coach.
yeah, and it's crazy because this is something that's funny. So everybody know Carson's been quiet other than doing the whole PSA for McLeod, right? So there's somebody that hasn't been quiet, and his name is Jalen Hurts. Did not bite his tongue. I don't know if you saw this or not.
I did not.
Today, I guess he was asked, I can't remember who asked him, but they asked him what were his thoughts on the whole thing about going up against Carson Wentz for a QB competition. He said, at the end of the day, it's a business. I don't doubt in my abilities and what I could do as a playmaker, and basically let the best man win. But I ain't shying from it. It's a business. That's what you do. You should try to fight for your job every year, every game, every practice. You're fighting for your job. I said,
Good answer. Great
I said
answer.
okay. I
Yeah.
said okay.
You
Okay.
know,
At least one ball is working out while the other one's playing Elmer fucking Fudd.
we don't know if he's not working out.
My man is motherfucking been in the blind, bro.
Do you know that?
Yeah, he's been posting pictures on his it's the Brothers Wentz or some kind of goofy hunting site where he's been on. It's a Twitter account, not his at CJ Wentz joint, but it's like a hunting Twitter account for hunters, and he's been posting on that. Yeah, he's been duck hunting.
I don't think this guy's back on the team, man. I think they're going to find a way to trade him. I just,
He's
I think,
rabbits.
I think he told the coach. I think it was one of those, ring ring. Hey, it's Coach Sirianni. What's that? You hope I didn't take the job expecting you to be the quarterback. Okay.
Right.
All right. Carson, I don't have the power to trade you. Okay, I'll make sure to go fuck myself. Have a good one. Like, that's probably the way they think I'm getting more and more of that feeling.
You forget the one thing. Okay, yeah. God bless you too.
Yeah. What was that? What was that? Oh, tell Jeffery Lurie to see him in hell? Okay, cool.
Yeah. Right.
I just, the more that this goes on, I don't have a major issue with him not saying anything, but if you are posting pictures of yourself, as you mentioned, duck hunting, which you can be a hunter, that's fine. But now it's starting to be that you're quietly doing what Deshaun has done publicly, which is very passive aggressive.
Right. I mean, listen, I get it. Me and you are of a different opinion, and that's fine. I feel that he should have came out and said something. Now, I'm not saying, oh, yes, I want to be an Eagle, but he don't need to answer all the rumors. But he could, in my opinion, he could at least said either sent out a tweet about Doug Peterson, just basically saying, good luck, coach. Even that, or even Nick Sirianni. Hey, coach,
So could
welcome to
about
Philadelphia.
45 other Eagles. And I think that's telling, too, that Lane Johnson is the only Eagle of Providence to welcome Coach Sirianni to his team.
Darius Slay kind of did. He said, I can't wait for the season to start. So that's kind of something.
That's not really welcoming the coach. And you know what I'm saying? Like, look, man, when a coach comes in,
really said anything about Doug either. I mean, there was a couple that said something, but nothing really like.
But not many. And it goes to dysfunction. You know, this isn't a protect Carson thing. It goes to dysfunction because when a new coach comes in, even if there's not a huge fanfare guy, you know, and we've actually had some decent fanfare hires here. But like, for example, when Doc Rivers got hired by the Sixers, I understand Doc has won, you know, and was a former player and all that stuff. Almost every player put something out, you know, oh, I can't wait to, you know, for this guy to come in and Fletcher Cox, hell, even though he's probably not going to be on the team, but like a Jason Peters, or the fact that, you know, more people put out tweets supporting Deuce before they've decided on the job. And then when they decided that they weren't going to go with Deuce, you don't hear nothing. I mean, that's telling that there's a culture that needs to be fixed there. And
there's
that's
definitely a discard between management and players, obviously.
Because, you know, you ain't see nothing from Brandon Brooks. You ain't see nothing from Brandon Graham. You ain't see, you know, and Brandon Graham is Mr. Rah-Rah. Like, so there's something that needs to be fixed there. And it could just be hey, we just going to wait and see. But that is, you know, a little troubling. Let's get into the 5-pack of questions.
All right.
So all of these kind of have to do with things that happened this past week.
Okay.
Not share, once again, any of these with AJ. Did anybody respond on social at all to stuff last week? Or cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with the fact, and I'm actually going to tell a little story about this at the end of the show. I'm a Temple grad. John Chaney passed away, legendary coach. But with that being said, who is the greatest basketball coach, either pro or college, that you got a chance to see in your lifetime?
That I've actually saw in person?
Saw in person or saw on TV. So you didn't see on YouTube, you didn't see in highlights. And I could say, I mean, like, Chaney's up there for me just because of the kind of talent he had to work with, and the kind of stuff that he did. And, you know, was a very big proponent of actually bringing the zone defense to the pros, even though he was never a pro coach, just because of how good it worked in college. And a lot of college teams really didn't do that for a while. So, you know, I would say John Chaney's definitely up there as one of the best.
I mean, man, I can't just put one just because I remember when Dean Smith, like, you know what I'm saying, was North Carolina, Mike Krzyzewski in his heyday with Duke.
Well, that's why I'm asking you to pick one. You know, if you had to put one up there, obviously we're talking because you got Coach K, you got Dean Smith, but then you also got Phil Jackson. You also got, you know.
So I wanna.
You also got oh my goodness, I can't remember his name. My man that's still in San Antonio. Popovich. I mean, you know, like.
You also got Chuck Daly, Detroit.
Chuck. Now, see, Chuck Daly was a little before my time. I was like 5 when that happened. Yeah. So I was stick with basketball. There was an incident where some fans got thrown out heckling LeBron James.
Oh yeah, sideline Karen. Yes.
Yeah. Courtside Karen.
That's what it's courtside Karen.
The 25-year-old that was with her 60-year-old husband. We won't comment on that. Good for him, I guess. Name an insult that someone threw at you while playing sports that you actually remember. It's not the 30th or the worst, but one where you were like, well, shit.
I remember on the basketball court. Now, it was an insult to me because I thought the dude was ugly. But it wasn't an insult because the dude could shoot. I remember I was playing pickup basketball and these guys kept calling me Tracy Murray.
You always gonna call somebody light skin, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Jason Kidd, Tracy Murray, Mike
See, but
Bibby.
that will lead me to my other thing. You know, when you on the court, people do, Kobe. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
I was big, but I wasn't really that good. Basketball was never my sport. But I was big, so I could be able to grab rebounds. I ran around. So while everybody else got to be, Kobe, or they got a chance to be AI, motherfuckers on the court would call me Greg Ostertag because I wore a Jazz jersey one time. I was like, y'all motherfuckers, I was Greg
yeah.
Ostertag or Greg Foster. Then we switch it to football. The Eagles
Okay.
obviously have 8 road games. And I'll remind you of some of the ones that we have, Panthers, Falcons, obviously Cowboys, Washington football team, the Giants, Lions,
Right.
Raiders, and I think that's it. And Broncos, if I didn't mention that. Out of those games, what's the one road trip that you personally would want to take?
But honest with you know what? Even though we've been there before, but I enjoyed myself so much and the fans were awesome. I wouldn't mind going back to Washington Stadium again. That was a lot of fun, and the fans there had a lot of class and stuff. Man, they were really fun.
Man, give me a blunt at Mile High Stadium.
Woo! I want to be
That,
able to breathe.
but I think all we decide. I've heard being at Denver Stadium is really really cool, and I think that's where I would want to go. I'd want to check out Denver,
Yeah,
assuming it wasn't
Denver.
December. If it was like
No.
October.
Yeah, hopefully it'd be like a September game, week 3.
Right. If it's week 16, I watch it on TV.
Yeah, I'm good.
We mentioned the Stafford trade, right? Huge
Yeah.
blockbuster trade. Any sport that you can think of. The biggest blockbuster trade that sticks out in your mind.
1991, when the Dallas Cowboys traded Herschel Walker to the Vikings for like 9 picks.
Well, what it was is they traded him for a bunch of players, but they didn't read
They
the
got
small
9,
print that if the
but they
players got
got 9
cut,
picks.
they would get the picks.
Yeah, but they got like 9 picks up to do.
Yeah,
Because
they
they
did. They ended up
drafted,
getting 9 picks. The Vikings
yeah,
didn't know they were going to cut the players to get the picks.
right. Bro. That's what built that dynasty, man. And it impacts me because I was in high school during that 90s run of Cowboys, and they made life hell. Y'all, people out there think Cowboys fans talk shit now. Ooh, they don't have no idea, bro. That was
So I'm going to take you back to 1999, okay? The second pick in the 1999 NFL Draft, the Philadelphia Eagles select – who do they select?
Donovan McNabb.
Boo! We want Ricky!
Oh, that was horrible.
And
I
then
felt
the
so bad for
Saints
Donovan.
traded their whole draft for Ricky Williams.
Whole draft.
And I remember just being like, they did what? Like, I thought ESPN skipped out. But what's
So I think
crazy?
you and I watched that draft together because if you remember, there was a number of times you had to get between me and other people at the bar, but at the bar restaurant that your dad owned, because we would be arguing and people would be wanting Ricky. And I was like, yo, Deuce just had like 1,400 all-purpose yards. Like, why do we need a running back? We need a quarterback. And I remember arguing, me and you would be arguing with people, and they'd be like,
What's bananas, though, was that I think the Saints got the better deal because the Redskins did nothing with any of those draft picks.
Nothing.
That's just crazy to me. Which, by the way, if you look at the trade for Jared Goff, I think the Titans have turned that into like 4 or 5 All-Pro players.
Well, not just that. There was the other trade that was really big was shit. Who did the Redskins in 2013 trade up when they got RG3? But they gave up like 4 first-round picks or something crazy. I remember it was like outrageous. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I mean, there's the stuff that has been given up for some of these picks. I mean, like you look at what we traded Cleveland, and I don't think Cleveland might have used one of those picks to get Nick Chubb. I think that's it.
Now, I will say one of the most boneheaded and head-scratching trades that I can remember that was laughable is when the Spurs traded Dennis Rodman to the Bulls for Will Perdue.
That was they just wanted to get rid of Dennis Rodman. I thought you
No,
were
no,
going
but
to.
it was still kind of like,
Well, the most recent one of a trade like that was when the Bears traded up from 3-2 to get Mitch Trubisky and gave up
yeah.
a ton. I was like, what in the world?
Or in 1993, well, between 92 93 season, the 76ers trading Charles Barkley to the Suns for Jeff Hornacek, Antonio Lang, and I forget who the other person was. It's like,
It
what the
was it it doesn't matter. It was crap.
Yeah,
It
it
was
was
the
terrible.
Sixers had horrible trade. It was like the curse of Moses Malone, man. Like they just couldn't get a good trade for the longest. I can't even tell you what we got for Jerry Stackhouse, but it wasn't worth it. But to give you an idea, and not to crap on Temple, I know, Howard Katz did a lot for Temple University. Howard Katz owned the Sixers. He drafted Sean Bradley over Chris Webber and Penny Hardaway because Sean Bradley was the only one willing to go to his house and work out on his kids' basketball court.
Bro, that was and people forget. Everybody's like, oh well, he was a big dude from BYU. To do that, the dude was in the Peace Corps for like 2 years. He hadn't played ball at BYU for like 2 years.
Right.
He was out
right.
doing the Peace Corps. They had to find him in the jungles of Africa to let him know he was drafted.
And I think Derek Coleman came out that year too, who was also a beast. You know what I mean? Like I know he didn't have. I mean that draft. That was what, the '95 draft, '94.
Somewhere around there, yeah.
95 we got Stackhouse, 96 we got AI. So I think that was the '94 draft. But mid-'90s basketball in general, just everybody that came out was crazy. So final thing, little pop culture. January 31st.
That was 5 questions? Only remember answering 2.
You answered 4.
Did I?
Yeah. You answered 2 basketball questions. You answered 2 football questions. Where would you like your road trip to be next year for the Eagles? Biggest blockbuster trade. You also answered the question about greatest basketball coach you ever saw. And then craziest insult. So now, if you want, we can throw a couple bonus questions in there because I do have a few things if you want to. But let me get to this one because I think this one is going to touch it. Maybe not touching your feels, but really give you some nostalgia.
Okay.
January 31st, 1988.
Okay.
Do you know what premiered after the Super Bowl that day?
The Wonder Years.
And the Wonder Years was based off of a show or based off of Family Living in 1968. Put that in perspective, it would be like a show coming out now based off of Family growing up in 2001.
I know, right? How fucking crazy is that?
If they were going to do a show about starting in a particular year, what year would you want it to be?
I would.
Right. Right.
1998. Just because of the uncertainty of 1999 and what was going to happen to going into 2000, and the internet still wasn't there yet. You know what I mean?
See, I was thinking like 95 because music was changing so much at that time. We had just finished with grunge. There was so much things going on with hip hop. There was the 95 is when you started seeing these quote unquote rock groups that had these frontmen that were rapping. You were like, wait a sec, what the hell's going on? But also the world in 95 is when you started seeing people with AOL. You started seeing a lot of different things with video games. You started seeing a lot of things with the internet. And you started seeing, the kind of introduction to cell phones were starting very slowly to happen in 95. So a lot was going on there. And to be able to see like a series from like 90, especially the way the Wonder Years did it, as the people grew, the year changed too. So it wasn't 68 every year. It was 68, 69, 70, 71,
Right.
72. So if they
Right.
did it for like 6, 7 years and it went from 95 to like 01, 02, I think it would be dope.
Right. Well, I was saying, one thing, like I said, with '98, because that's when like they had the like people really didn't have cellies. They had the Skygram pages, right? So you would instead of paging somebody and hit, you'd be like, "Hey Joey, let's start the show," and you would look down, and it would came across the screen
Uh-huh.
like that is your page. Um, that was big in '98. The '98 was the little girl. I don't know if you remember. The little girl was the information superhighway. Like, yeah, all that shit was kicking off. So that's why I chose '98. But kind of almost the same thing. Like, start is the kind of like the beginning of like the internet and all that stuff. And like you said, going into the years now, people, you know what I'm saying?
Right. And then you start seeing people. I remember the first time I thought some dude was crazy talking to himself was the first time someone I saw with a wireless headset. It was like an '01. But like the wireless headsets, they blinked this like huge blue light every single one that you had.
Yeah.
You know, it was crazy. But I'll throw a bonus question in there since you felt like it's kind of short. So going into video games, I just finished. I know I'm like 15 years late on this, but I just finished the remake of the first Yakuza game. You ever play the Yakuza series? They've made now to give you an idea. They've made 8 of them. Okay, so
Mm.
it's a very popular series. What I liked about it the most, though, the gameplay was cool. Like a lot of games in the early 2000s, there was some issues with camera, but the storyline was incredible. Like the storyline was something that could have been in an action movie type deal. Name me a game where the story captivated you like that,
Mm.
where you were just like, yo, like I really felt like I just got done watching a movie.
The Last of Us 1 and
I
2.
think that's what you want to go with, The Last of Us.
And what I'm doing right now, the story's actually rocking pretty good. Game is just so fucking long. Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
The first,
So long.
the first Assassin's Creed, when it came out, hooked me like that too. Especially for people, if you've never played the first Assassin's Creed, I'm sorry, it's almost 2 decades old now. So, spoiler
Right.
alert. The guy who is in the Animus that's like kind of doing the training kind of wakes up and sees all these like special codings and stuff written all across the wall, and he has to try to figure out what it is, and that's kind of how the game ends, almost like a memento type thing. And it was pretty dope. It was like I couldn't wait to play the second one.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, the first 3 were kind of almost all tied into the same dude.
right.
But then after that, it kind of went off on its own. It was a bunch of different people. But this game is so long.
And I'll just stick with video games for one more thing. There was an announcement today of NCAA football coming back. I find
I'm
it
still not
very.
going to cop Madden. I'm not going to get Madden. Still
Hold
not.
on. I think you will. But before I do that, I do have to rain on the parade real quick. Just my little tidbit. I find it very funny, all these universities that are like, oh, it's about time they're coming out with another football game, blah, blah, blah. Y'all the reason why they stopped. Because University of Oregon and University of Texas and University of Michigan wanted to be paid separately to use their stadiums and their likeness and their logos. It had nothing to do with Ed O'Bannon and that stuff. And so for y'all to kind of come out and talk about, oh, well, it's about time, I feel it is really corny on y'all part. But that's here nor there. Let's put that over there. Back to the happy stuff. Reason why I think you might cop Madden, they're going to do what they used to do back in the day, where you can import the rosters into Madden. So you can create a player, play them for 4 years. If they do that, I'll cop Madden.
Yeah, if they do that, I'll cop it. But I'm definitely going to go ahead. I just hope they don't do all the shit that they add to Madden to this. Because if that, I'm not even going to fuck with it if that's the case.
Right. I think that they said that the one's not coming out for 2021. They need a year to. It's in the very baby stages. So the earliest it would come out is fall 2022. But
I wonder if they're going to have it come out because if you remember, Madden comes out in August, They used to have the NCAAs come out in July. I wonder if they're going to go back to that.
I don't know. It's going to be called EA Sports College Football. So they're not
Right.
using the NCAA moniker. But I'll be curious to see, because here's the interesting thing. Football games, you know, they have the most sales right before the season starts.
Mm-hmm.
They have the second most sales usually during Super Bowl week or right before the playoffs start. So a lot of games, prime example, Techno Bowl didn't come out until January 1st.
Right.
When first drop. Like, so football games back in the day used to come out like around Christmas time and stuff like that. But I did like the idea of it coming out right before 4th of July. That was always so dope.
Yeah, it always came out like the first week of July, and Madden always came out like the third week of August. So like you could build up like a whole legacy. Like I said, I just hope if it's a 4-star recruit, you know what I mean? Like all of a sudden all of a sudden his whole circle's green, and all of a sudden he can't be blocked. Like,
yeah. I don't want it to be a Marvel superhero type game.
right. You know what I mean?
So, we kind of went a little bit on the nerdy side of things. But hope everybody enjoys watching the Super Bowl if that's your thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Obviously, everybody's going to watch it. Have you ever taken off the day after the Super Bowl? I know they say it's supposed to be a holiday, so to speak.
Yeah, 2017.
Yeah. Well, no. Let me rephrase that, because obviously 2017. Have you ever called out of work from watching the Super Bowl that did not involve the Eagles?
So, the Bucks versus Raiders Super Bowl, I was over a buddy of mine's house, and we were drinking. We were drinking pretty heavily. I was anger drinking because I was so hurt from the Eagles losing and watching the ass whooping. I literally got to the point where I started chugging Pure Green after like 13 beers. Yeah, I had no choice. Actually, she was my girlfriend at the time, but now currently my wife actually had to call out for me.
I remember, so this was, I might have told the story to some degree, the Seahawks-Patriots Super Bowl. So whatever year that was.
Okay.
I remember there was a bunch of us that used to work together when I lived in New York. And she had like a little condo in Jersey City. And so she had a little party. So it was me, my one buddy, some other dude, and like 4 or 5 women. And my buddy started making what he called mangaritas. They were it was literally like tequila with this much margarita mix.
Oh, wow.
Let me tell you how bad it was. I was living in Central Jersey at the time. I ended up in the Bronx.
Damn.
To give you an idea, that's like trying to head to D.C. and you end up at University of Delaware, like the total opposite direction, okay? My buddy left, got into his car, and realized that he forgot how to start his car. So that's when it took him till then to realize that he was drunk, but he couldn't get back into the apartment. So he called a cab to his parents' house. His parents live in Cherry Hill. We were in Jersey City. He literally paid for like a $300 cab ride.
That's crazy.
When I tell you, that's probably the most drunk I think all of us have ever been. It was a fun time. I'll put it like this. I was so drunk, I didn't know that the Patriots had won that Super Bowl until it was like around 11 p.m. Monday. Because I remember they were driving. I remember them being like right on the goal line, so I figured they were just going to punch it in. Not to mention, I was messing around with women there, just like, it was what it was. But like, bro, I don't think I've been that drunk since. But it was a good time.
I don't know. You couldn't make it across the street without hopping in the cab 30 seconds after we just had a conversation about going to the pizza shop.
We'll get to that story another time. That was the story where I literally told AJ and his buddies I'll meet him outside. Had a the door opener for a garage that had his car in it, and I hopped in a cab and started. Was like maybe about 4 or 5 blocks up when he called me. Like, yo, where the hell did you go?
We were all outside, and you was like, "Yo, what are we doing?" And I was like, "Yo, we get ready to go over here to get some pizza." And you were like, "Good, I am hungry." And then all of a sudden, we're like, me and you literally started walking across the street together. And I turned around, and you were going, and I'm like, "Yo, where's he at?" And I called you. You're like, "I'm in a cab."
That was a fun night too.
Yes, that was yes.
We'll get into we'll figure out a reason to tell some drunk stories at another point.
Right.
But we also need to figure out how to tell them where you won't be telling on yourself. But with that being said, people, happy first week of February. 6 more weeks of winter according to the groundhog, whatever that means. But yo, enjoy the Super Bowl, man. We'll talk next week where the off season will officially begin for everybody.
Yeah, and we'll be getting into more draft shit.
Absolutely, because then the focus is on the draft 110%. And we'll probably be seeing more and more movement with all the quarterbacks that are available for trade and things of that nature too. So it'll be very interesting.
Awesome.
All right, y'all. Until next week, any final words?
Peace.
Peace.